This is crazy shit in real estate. And today we're talking about an exonerated murderer who's been in jail for 25 years and therefore might like 1995 decor. If that doesn't make you interested, then just be glad to meet Damian Hall from Greenville, South Carolina. Enjoy this conversation. I'll see you on the other side. You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. Tell us where you're located. Tell us about you, how long you've been around real estate. Give us a little bit of color commentary.
Yeah, so I am in Greenville. You're in Charlotte. I think it's about an hour and 45 minutes down I-85.
It depends on the number of orange cones, whether it's 2 hours and 20 minutes or an hour and a half.
It could be 4 hours. You never know.
You really don't.
So I have a small team that operates in 5 markets. We're based here in Greenville. We're also in Lake Kiwi, which is a beautiful lake about 45 minutes from Greenville in the upstate of South Carolina. And we're also in Tryon, just across the border in North Carolina. We work with a lot of horse farms in that area around the Tryon International Equestrian Center. And then we're in Highlands Cashers, which is kind of known as the Aspen of the East Coast. And then also we're in Hilton Head now, working on a big development, $500 million development deal on the coast, and just opened a Blackstone Christie's office down there. So we kind of have you covered from the coast to the mountains, which is cool.
So mainly you work with schwanky markets then, because Highlands Cashiers is one of the fanciest markets we have in the state, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I'm very lucky. I mean, we're in and out of just gorgeous homes, from $5 million beach home to $4 million gorgeous house with sweeping views in the Highlands. And then, a 70-acre horse farm in Tryon that's like gone with the wind. So it's pretty neat.
Which is always amazing. Like, even North and South Carolinians don't always know the size and the scope of Tryon. I mean, you've got sheiks from Saudi Arabia flying their horses over here. President Trump owns a facility out there. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, he was involved at the Equestrian Center, and I think friends with a lot of the other developers, that like Mark Bellissimo from Wellington, Florida. And they did a show together in Central Park, big horse show a couple of years ago. But yes, it's kind of people, you're right. People don't really know what the kind of wealth and kind of horses that are just coming to that area to compete. So it's pretty neat for North Carolina. It's a big draw.
Well, and I'll tell you a secret from Runner World. I don't know if you run or not, but there is a half marathon in Tryon every year in November. The Tryon half is gorgeous because it goes down around the horse farms, and most of it on path. So it's not on concrete. So you're not beating your knees up. And at the end, the old ladies from the Tryon area bring breakfast casseroles. So it's known as one of those races where you can eat back every single calorie immediately after the race. And it's just all kinds of delightfulness. And so for anybody who's not a runner, I recommend you train for the Tryon half and then eat your heart literally quite out, and you will be the happiest person ever. So I have to toss in that little plug for Tryon, because
I'm on board with that.
And Greenville just made the Condé Nast list of like the coolest towns ever. And a friend of mine texted me and said, well, we're done for now.
I know, right? Right in the middle of Charlotte and Atlanta. So, I mean, it's a nice little, growth corridor that we're in. Our mayor had the foresight in 1991 to create a master vision, a 20-year plan and a 40-year plan. And they've really just executed it beautifully. I live downtown in Greenville, and I can walk we've got a waterfall that goes right through the middle of town and all these wonderful restaurants. So Greenville's really coming on the map now.
And it's got the Swamp Rabbit Trail too. Look, everywhere I have a runner connection to it, and I love Swamp Rabbit. All right, so Damian, tell our crowd a little bit about what you've seen in and around real estate, because of course our premise here is the crazy shit in real estate, and that could be related to anything you've seen, whether it's development and growth or a client experience. We just don't name names, but tell us a little bit about in the practice of being in this crazy business.
Oh man, there's a long list. I think my favorite story is going to involve the Highlands market. This property I'm talking about is probably a 2-hour drive from Greenville. You've got to actually cross through northern Georgia and then up into, they call it the Atlanta side of the Highlands.
Wait a minute. We should let people know that you're crossing through Deliverance Country, because that's...
Yes. Oh, my God.
Deliverance Country. Just so everybody knows.
Yeah. So
you're going from bougie Greenville to Deliverance Country to Aspen. It's that extreme, really, now that I've said that out loud. Maybe you should do a postcard to that effect.
Right. I like that. From the hills to the hollers, we deliver.
I think that would play.
Yeah. So this one and this property is really like on the border of a holler and Highlands. So you're 15 minutes into Highlands down the Atlanta side of driving in Rayburn and Dillard. We're just across the North Carolina border. So just discovered these places when I decided I'm going to take this listing 2 hours away from me. I get a call and a gentleman says the Walnut Grove estate was what it was called. It's 30 acres, breathtaking. The house is dated, needed some help, but the property, I think it was $2.5 million at the time, early 2020. So I get this call and this guy's like, that is my dream property. I live in Kentucky and I want to come down and see it. I'm like, okay, cool. And so the conversation goes on and he tells me that he is a convicted murderer and he's just been released from jail after serving 25 years. But he was released after DNA evidence revealed that he was not guilty of that murder. So
this information, this was just in the, here's my phone number, here's my spouse's name, I'm a convicted murderer, just kind of rolled it out.
It did. I mean, this was pretty early on. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to end this conversation quickly. Come to find out he was exonerated through DNA evidence or something. So he's like, you can Google me. It's a big deal in the news and I'm suing the state, going to get some money. And this is my dream home. So I want to come see it. So I'm like, okay, we haven't had a showing in like a few months. So I called, he gave me the attorney's information. I obviously Googled him. This was all searchable and, he'd been released after DNA evidence that he was not guilty of whatever the main, evidence was that they convicted him with. So I'm still a little skeptical. Jury's still out. My jury. So I call his attorney in Chicago and the attorney was like, yeah, he's suing the state. He's going to get a settlement, but it could be next month. It could be next year. So like, okay, again, we need the showing. And so we set it up. He drives down from Kentucky and I bring my operations director and one of my associates with me who hadn't seen the property yet. And just so I had backup. So they were just going to be off, meandering 30 acres. Tyler was showing Courtney, around while I was showing the house. So he comes with a little entourage. So there's like 3 young ladies with him and thick, like, I think it's West Virginia, like thick West Virginia accent, like straight from the coal mining town. So I proceed to walk him, we're touring the 30 acres. It's a huge, like 7,000 square foot house, guest house, huge pool, waterfall, enchanted garden, like all of this stuff's barn. So we get down to the barn and he really starts lagging. I'm like, do you need a rest? Sit down and have a rest. So he starts to complain about his kidneys and said his kidneys he was on some kind of hunger strike in prison and it ruined his kidneys. So at this point, I'm like, okay. And, and this is like March of 2020 and things are like COVID's starting to pop off. And I'm like, does this guy have COVID or something? We didn't really know what the sitch was, but knew something was going on. Let him rest for a minute. And I said, we had walked down from the house and around kind of the property. I said, do you need me to go get the car and come drive you back up to the main house? He said, yes, it'd be great. So I walked up, got the car, brought him back up to the house. And then he sits down at the table in the kitchen and it's kind of weary. I get him water, checking on him. I asked to use the restroom, which is just around the corner. Goes in the restroom. I hear just like calling dinosaurs, just throwing up in the toilet. I mean, absolutely. Like I'm starting to get a little worried. I did not tell the seller anything about this situation, the circumstances going on. So this escalates to him laying on the floor in the kitchen and just saying, I just need a minute. I need a minute. So he comes out of the bathroom to doing God knows what. And then just flat on the floor. At this point, he's already taken his shirt off. So there's this guy with no shirt on, just laid out on the floor. So I'm like, this is getting worse by the minute. I'm like, if my seller comes back and finds this guy laid out under kitchen, I'm like, oh my, this is
like, I didn't do it.
Mortified. Yeah. So at this point, they're just standing around the car smoking, like no idea what's going on. My 2 are oblivious to what's going on too. They're downstairs in the basement in the den downstairs, just catching up.
If you are remotely awake, then you know that we are heading into some really tricky economic times. We have home buyers that have put the kibosh on buying. We have sellers who have found out suddenly their houses aren't dipped in 14 karat gold. And as a realtor, you are still trying to keep up with the business you have and trying to answer questions in the meantime, while also managing sky high fuel cost at the pump. Never fear, because my new video course is coming out right now, and it's called How to Dominate During a Recession. I've been a realtor for 22 years. My business went up every year during the Great Recession, and it's all because of education This course is 4 modules. There might even be some bonus content for you. The price is $199. I am delighted to bring this out as quickly as possible because, friends, there's no time like the present to make sure our neighbors are stronger and we protect the American dream. Click on this link, www.dominatethisrecession.com, and I'll see you there. Now, back to this amazing content.
So I'm sitting with this guy for 20 minutes, hoping he recovers. So nothing, 10 more minutes passes. He's like, I think I need to go to the hospital. I'm like, oh shit, are you kidding me? Now this situation just really evolved. And then again, I don't know if I'm being played for some angle as well. I mean, there's just a lot of chaos. So there was no self-service there as we were in a holler. And the seller has a landline over the internet, and I tried to use it to call, and that didn't work. So I walked outside to his cronies, and I'm like, your friend needs some help in here. Can you check out the situation? I think you need to take him to the hospital. It would take 40 minutes for an ambulance to get there, and it's 40 minutes back to the hospital. So I'm like, he's not an emergent situation. I think you could get him to the hospital faster than an ambulance could get him. And so they come in and let's take you to the hospital. He's like, no, I want an ambulance. I want an ambulance. So
he doesn't trust his friends to take him. He won't send ambulance.
I guess. Yeah. And again, this is suspect. I'm explaining the situation. You're going to have to wait 40 minutes. I'm going to have to wait 40 minutes for the ambulance to get there is what I'm really thinking. And then my seller's going to come back. There's going to be an ambulance and a dead killer coming out of her house. And so we did
say a dead killer. That was pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. I guess, formerly convicted.
He's an innocent killer.
Yeah. So we sit there and make awkward conversation for 35 minutes until the ambulance gets there. And I'm just like, I don't even know what to do. Finally, my operations director came upstairs, and I was walking out to go get this guy's friends. And I just didn't say a word. You have no idea what's going on. As you walk into the kitchen, you'll figure it out. I'm going to get his friends. So then, of course, there's a gate all the way down the road to get to the property. I have to send somebody to the gate to make sure that the ambulance can get in. Ambulance gets in, loads him up, takes him out of there, passes my seller as the seller's coming home.
Of course.
And naturally. And then never heard from the guy again. I don't know if he's dead, if he's alive. I wish him well. Hopefully he's still doing great. That was, very bizarre.
Look, all I can say is that add all of that up, and you've got the makings of a new Netflix special that might be better than the Murdaugh trial.
It could have went a lot of different directions that would have been a lot worse. In hindsight, I'm like
the entourage of women that he collected up for himself.
They were apparently one of them. After my first contact, one of them was who I was communicating with about scheduling the showing, his daughter's friends. And I didn't even ask. I didn't want to know.
I mean, so there's a couple of things we should probably land on here. If you're a consumer, you should know that agents do like to have policies in place for showing properties, but all of them have listings where the seller is anxious for a showing, and then you wind up saying yes to bringing somebody into the house, even if you're just a little bit, circumspect about how they're going to pay for it. It's just something that happens in the business, whether we should or we shouldn't, it happens. Now, of course, there's a lot of safety considerations there. And so yay for South Carolina forewarn system where you could nowadays check out somebody's criminal history before we take the show them a house to make sure we know what we're dealing with. But with this one, you'd see a pretty scary story until you do go the extra mile to talk to the attorney. So high five to you for checking out the information you had. But the other thing that I wish people understood in these scenarios is that, especially if you're a new agent, lean in here and listen to me and Damian when we tell you that if a buyer prospect tells you they are waiting on a settlement, it ain't coming.
100%.
I just have discovered that those people that are waiting on a settlement like to call agents that will think it's cash. It ain't cash. Not until the settlement's done and the money has hit the bank account. You are wasting your time. If I could have all the time back I had as a young, sprightly little agent who thought the best of everybody on people that said they had settlements coming, I spent a lot of time with people before I learned they were just on a fool's errand. So there's to learn from this. But Damian, looking back at that situation, what would you have done differently as a more seasoned agent now than you were then?
That's a good question. That was kind of hard because I felt like I needed to be fair to him because I verified he was exonerated. He was, wrongfully in prison for 25 years if he didn't do it. So the fact that we verified the funds, the settlement, probably I'd be a little more weary about, like you just said, the settlement actually coming to fruition and saying, well, we need something verifiable, cash in the bank. The seller requires proof of funds that are in the bank in order to schedule the showing, pre-approval letter from a lender that, you can actively purchase the house. Otherwise, they don't want to be put out for a showing and go through that process.
And it's actually, as I think about the consumers, the regular people who watch my show and listen to it, they should probably be thinking to themselves, maybe this is why I do not want a for sale by owner, because if you're a for sale by owner on that property and this guy calls and says, I have a settlement coming, they don't know that the settlements aren't real till they're in the bank. And they probably don't even know to check all the other background information. So then innocent until proven guilty, or innocent until proven guilty and then exonerated is the whole path. But they wouldn't know the questions to ask and could let somebody into their house that doesn't mean false harm, but falls out on the kitchen floor. And now you got a body in the house, because it could have gone worse, Damian. It could have been much worse.
Yeah. I have nightmares.
I bet you do. So now, how many years you been in the business total now?
I was licensed in 2007. So whatever that math is.
That's the beginning of the Great Recession, before the wheels fell off the 18-wheeler.
So I was selling homes in Charleston. I started my junior year of college with one of the top producers in Charleston. And, we're selling homes south of Broad, these beautiful historic homes. And then, the music stopped about a year after I got my license, and 2008 and 9 happened. And then, kind of had to shift gears and reinvent myself. Actually moved to Tryon, North Carolina, where my grandmother has a Remax franchise. So that's how I got in the business.
Does your grandma participate in bringing the breakfast casseroles to the Tryon Half?
She might.
You don't have to ask. I bet she does. It's not a big town.
Oh, no, not at all.
And if she does, tell her hers is my favorite, just so you know.
Well, I'm going to run that down. I moved to Tryon and got into business with my grandmother at with her Remax business. And that's how the kind of horse farm connection came about in my business now. And then started a property management company in 2010, since nothing was going on in the real estate world. Everything was kind of falling apart. So built that we had about 150 long-term rentals in kind of upper Greenville County and then into Polk County in North Carolina. So did that and had a property manager, and jumped back kind of into sales full-time in 2012 and sold that management company in 2013. And then moved to Greenville in 2012 and continued kind of commuting back and forth to Tryon until about 2015, when I brought my kind of sales practice to Greenville. And we started a vacation rental company in Tryon outside the Equestrian Center, running, higher end homes to the horse show guests that were coming in. Sold that company in 2018. And, we've been expanding kind of reach in the luxury sales sector since then.
The best thing about your pathway is it was not a long, straight, narrow road. You've done all these different pieces in and around real estate, which if you're a practitioner who's watching this, you should know that if where you've landed in the business doesn't feel right, be like Damian and go try something different. If the market that you're in feels like it's not going to do anything, there's other angles. That's the beauty of real estate, is that there are literally as many pathways as you can possibly get your brain around to envisioning. And then you may wind up doing exactly what you really enjoy, no matter what the markets are doing. Damian, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us
very welcome.
Netflix script. And so Netflix, if you're watching this, I want to have a credit for introducing you to Damian. He gets a big box just saying, and whatever you think about.
We could put on quite a production.
We could. I think it'd be great, actually. And then we'll see that means North Carolina would have a show to rival what happened in Colleton County, South Carolina, because I think everybody has watched that program at this point.
I think we need to give the poor Carolinas a break right now.
No, we can take it. We're pretty awesome.
Okay. All right.
We got stories.
I agree.
We put our crazy cousins on the front porch. We don't hide them in the back room.
Right.
Damian, if somebody wants to reach out to you about any of the markets that you and your company serve, what's the best way for them to find you?
You can look, we're on Instagram. So at Damian Hall Group is our Instagram handle. And then feel free to email me, dh@damianhallgroup.com.
And of course, as you people know, I know you weren't listening to any of this because you're currently looking up the Alex Murdaugh stuff on Netflix. So you didn't finish it. That's okay. All of Damian stuff is in the show notes for this episode. Feel free to reach out, ask any questions that you have. And especially if you're trying to figure out where you want to land in your real estate pathway, I bet he could give you a little bit of counsel on the ideas that and information he's learned along the way. Damian, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yep. It was so much fun. Thanks, Leigh.
Absolutely. All right, guys, you know what to do. Say something nice about Damian in the comments. Give us a like, a thumbs up. check out some other episodes. We'll see you in the future. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you have some fun, then you totally won't just subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.